the moment they race against someone else, they need to anticipate the movement and understand the movement of the others. Otherwise, you have a crash guaranteed very quickly, because each team will have an optimized trajectory, and most likely they will come at the same point together.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 440. What role do autonomous grand challenges play in accelerating innovation? For that question, we head to Abu Dhabi to speak with Stéphane Timpano, CEO of Aspire, the program management and business development arm of the Advanced Technology Research Council. The ATRC's mission is to build a vibrant research and development ecosystem that supports Abu Dhabi and the broader UAE in its transformation into a knowledge-based economy. With nearly 1,000 employees representing over 70 nationalities, the Council is also investing in the next generation of innovators through a wide range of STEM initiatives. Aspire drives the Council's programmatic efforts by crowdsourcing top global talent through international competitions and grand challenges. These challenges are designed to tackle real-world problems, everything from global hunger and maritime safety to the future of autonomous mobility, by bringing together experts from academia and industry to co-create cutting-edge solutions. As CEO, Stephane leads Aspire's strategic direction and oversees relationships with key stakeholders and partners. He brings more than 15 years of management consulting experience, including major transformation initiatives at Bain & Company in Dubai and Nigeria. His industry expertise spans telecom, media, tech, private equity, and energy. Before consulting, Stephane worked in the media industry in South Africa and Italy, gaining valuable experience at Sky Italia News Corporation and IMS. He has also been deeply involved in the social impact and economic development projects with organizations such as the World Bank, Gates Foundation, Acumen, and Endeavor. He holds an MBA from SDA Bocconi in Milan and a degree in business administration from Marseille University in France. Recently, more than 2,500 people gathered to watch top autonomous drone racers compete for a $1 million prize pool at the Autonomous Drone Racing Grand Championship in Abu Dhabi. And in case you're wondering, MAVLab from the Delft University of Technology in the Netherlands secured victories in 3 out of the 4 competitions. They clinched the AI Grand Challenge with their drone completing 2 laps of the 170-meter course in just 17 seconds. MAVLab won the world's first AI-only drag race, demonstrating straight-line speed and precision under intense acceleration. And in a landmark moment, MAVLab's autonomous drone defeated 3 top DCL champion pilots in a head-to-head AI versus human showdown. In this episode of the Drone Radio Show, Stephane shares insights into Aspire's mission, the rise of autonomous racing challenges, and the broader impact these competitions can have across technology, education, and industry. But before we hear from Stephane, I want to stress that your support is the heartbeat of my podcast. Every episode is crafted with you in mind, and your generous donations ensure I can keep delivering the content you love. Whether it's the price of a coffee or a more substantial contribution, every bit helps to defray the cost of production. Donate today and be a vital part of the podcast's continued journey to greatness. To donate, go to droneradioshow.com/donate. And if you can, please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform and leave a nice review. It really helps improve the podcast ranking among the many thousands of active podcasts today. And by the way, if you have a great story about the use of drones that you'd like to share in a podcast, contact me at randy@droneradioshow.com. So let's learn about the role that autonomous grand challenges play in accelerating innovation with Stéphane Timpano of Aspire. Let's pick up the interview where I asked Stephane to introduce himself.
My name is Stéphane Timpano. I'm the CEO of Aspire, part of ATRC, which is the Advanced Technology Research Council of Abu Dhabi.
Stephane, let's start with the big picture. Tell us about the Advanced Technology Research Council and the role it plays in advancing innovation in Abu Dhabi.
With ATRC, actually, it's a very important institution in Abu Dhabi. So the aim of ATRC, the Advanced Technology Research Council, is to foster innovation in the UAE and globally. If you look at the UAE in the past, it has been for years and years boosted by the oil economy, right? But the leadership is clearly aware of the fact that in the coming years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now, you will have to detach yourself from the good oil economy and start shifting to something different where you have already developed new ways of growing your GDP through industries and through services. And if you think about that and you look at the way the UAE are built up, it's a country where we push a lot on technology and adoption of new technologies, and we don't have naturally years and years of R&D in our background. So the aim of ATRC is really to create this R&D infrastructure in the UAE with the main objective to support the growth of the local economy.
How long has the council been operating, and what inspired its creation?
It will be 5 years in May. So it's a pretty young organization that started at the times of COVID. So it was an interesting moment to start this kind of initiative. But we grow pretty quickly from being an idea of being an institution of something close to 100 and 1,300 people, which is quite impressive. You think about the complexity of selecting and hiring and putting together scientists, researchers, engineers to be able to do that job.
One of the council's initiatives is Aspire, of which you're the CEO. Can you explain what Aspire is and how it fits in within the council's broader mission?
Good question. So under the council, there are three main organizations, right? So Aspire, TII, the Technology Innovation Institute, and Venture One. So let me just introduce quickly the three organizations. So Aspire is what we call the R&D program manager. So we are the one who goes out on the market, speak with the Abu Dhabi institutions, public and private organizations, and understands their R&D needs or propose them R&D opportunities that then will be developed by our sister company called TII. But we also have another important role, which is what we call the House of Grand Challenge. And through Grand Challenges, we want to do a few things. One is to help globally to push the R&D agenda on very important topics. And A2RL, we will discuss about that later, is one of our topics of predilection, one of our major topics of interest. But also develops awards and special competitions to globally source the best talents and bring them into our ecosystem. Close to Aspire, there are, I was saying, two other organizations. One is TII, the Technology Innovation Institute. TII is the art of ATRC in reality, where most of the researchers, engineers, PhDs, scientists work today. So this organization is structured across several research centers that talked about robotics, about quantum physics, about AI, about secure systems, about advanced materials. So we have a few of them like this. And this is where most of the research is developed in collaboration with our customers. And finally, Venture One is at the end of the process. Once we have identified and developed new technologies that have a market opportunity, Venture One will be the organization licensing these technologies or creating the startups or the GVs with the Abu Dhabi ecosystem to bring it to the market.
You mentioned the concept of grand challenges. Is that where the Autonomous Racing League fits in?
Absolutely. So under the Grand Challenge concept, we have created what we call A2RL, the Abu Dhabi Autonomous Racing League, which the ambition is to look at everything around autonomy and advanced robotics and AI. And we found that one of the best test bed you can imagine to do that is racing, right? And racing not only with cars, but with any kind of vehicles that go at very high speed in very complex environments. because in this context, you can create really a strong test bed to really stress autonomy, not simply having a car moving from a point A to B in a protected part of a road like it happened in most parts of the world today, but having a car or any kind of vehicle moving at high speed in a complex environment, which is not only a road, but could be something flying in the air or on the water. And by doing that, we believe that we are helping demonstrating how autonomy can really change the way mobility will evolve in the future, and specifically also help the agenda of convincing the peoples that actually autonomous driving can be a driving force to a better mobility in the growing cities of tomorrow.
Let's talk about the grand challenges. It's not just cars. We're talking about land, air, and sea vehicles competing, right?
We started with super formulas. So super formulas are not Formula One cars, but it is a category just below, right? These are complex high-performance cars that can run up to 200 kilometers per hour that are currently used in the Japanese championship and are developed by an Italian company called Dallara. So Dallara, for the people who know racing, is probably the most unknown and important operator in the industry, supplying a variety of Formula One and others competitions around the world with their technology. So the Super Formula is a very competitive car, and we have brought basically the Super Formula car into the autonomous world by stripping away what we will call the human module where the pilot will sit and replacing it with an autonomous kit, which to make it simple is a metal structure that has a set of actuators, wires, and the computer and sensors, which are very important, that represent the driver. And on top of it, we have loaded our AI, which basically take all the information that the sensors will collect when they are on the circuit, analyze them together, and take the decisions on how to behave on the circuit.
And just to be clear, this is a real race with autonomous vehicles competing head-to-head. How many vehicles are expected to compete in this event?
So the first edition happened in April last year, and we had 8 teams that participated to the race. So they participated to the whole training that brought them to be able to join the race, using also simulators, but also coming with us in Abu Dhabi on the Yas Marina circuit, which is a fully fledged Formula One circuit, and train with us. So out of these 8 teams that were coming from all around the world, 4 of them qualified to the final race and raced together in front of 12,000 people. So we already done that. It was the first time, not the first time an autonomous car was driving on a circuit, but it was the first time that multiple cars of this complexity were racing together on a Formula One circuit at the same time. That was a really important challenge to achieve. Also, more importantly, we also managed to put for the first time together a human car and an autonomous car. So we had our friend Daniel Kvyat, a Formula One driver with Red Bull, who joined us and has been our human driver, and he raced against the autonomous car developed and managed by our TII team, again in front of 12,000 people. And what was interesting is that the first day we put together a human and an AI car on a circuit, it was really not nice to see, if you wish, right? So, the human car crossed the finish lines 2-3 minutes ahead of the AI car. But in few months' time, we managed to get very close to the human car, and the TII racing car managed to be in the lapse of 10 seconds from the human car, which show you how much technology can evolve quickly in 4 or 5 months of effort. And the objective is to bring the autonomous car as close as possible to the human car, which will happen probably in the next year.
Was there ever a concern about human drivers competing alongside AI, especially pertaining to safety or performance gaps?
That's a very good question, Randy. It is. Indeed, not everyone was comfortable of having that. And our test pilot, let me call it like this, took it very seriously and really tried to do that in the most safest way. Today, because of the distance between the human driver and the AI driver, there were little chance that the 2 cars were very close one to the other. But with time, this will become a concern we will have to manage as much as possible, because the moment you get few seconds away from the human driver, it means that you are very close on a circuit and you need to be careful.
What challenges do you have scheduled for this year?
So we have two competitions this year coming up. One is in few days in Abu Dhabi, where for the first time we will have an autonomous drone race happening. It will be the A2RL drone version, and we'll have with us 14 teams from all around the world who are going to come to race on very small, let me say, drones who can race up to 30 meters per second, and they will compete all together in Abu Dhabi. That's also a first globally. For the first time, we have teams from all around the world that will compete on the same kind of drone in totally autonomous context. And this will be interesting because here again, we will have to, we will propose new formats where humans against machine will race. So through our partners this year, the Drone Champions League, we are bringing with us world champions. So human pilots who are used to race against each other, and they're going to race against drones.
Are the drones and vehicles in these competitions fully autonomous? I mean, are they making real-time decisions on their own, or are they mostly following pre-programmed routines?
It's a very important question. Thank you for asking it. The drones take autonomous decisions. So the moment you put together not only one drone, but multiple drones on a circuit, these drones need to be able to see what's happening around them, right? So while they train on a circuit and they train on specific gates that they have to pass through, the moment they race against someone else, they need to anticipate the movement and understand the movement of the others. Otherwise, you have a crash guaranteed very quickly, because each team will have an optimized trajectory, and most likely they will come at the same point together at some point. So no, these are really autonomous drones that will act based on what the others are going to do at the same time.
In a human race, pit crews play a vital role. What does that look like in an autonomous competition? Do the support teams turn into spectators once the race begins?
When you think about the drone autonomous race and the car autonomous race, the new pilots are the engineers. The new pilots are the coders, right, that prepare the drone or the car and the software that go in the drone and the car. And they have a huge preparation before. The moment you push a button, then the cars or the drones are totally autonomous. And what they do, they have curves and numbers for the entire race. So there is a lot of preparation until the moment you push a button. The moment you push a button, you wait to see what will be the final results. You can't intervene on the car or on the drone.
You mentioned 14 teams are participating. Is that the full lineup?
Absolutely. 14 teams that come from all around the world. So we'll have clearly a couple of 3 UAE teams run from the Technology Innovation Institute called ATRC, but also from the biggest organization in the UAE. We have teams coming from Canada, teams coming from the US, from Korea, from the Netherlands. So it's a pretty global reach.
Are the races part of a series, or is it a standalone event?
So the aim is to progressively build up a small league, and league means that we have at least a couple of races per year. So first year we had only one race with the cars, which was something we built up in less than 12 months. So it was a kind of really ambitious objective. This year we have grown the car competitors list. We moved from 8 to 12 competitors, and they are now preparing for the race that is going to happen in November this year in Abu Dhabi. And as a drone race is this one with 14 teams. For 2026, we plan to confirm drones and cars and potentially multiply the number of races.
Will all of the races be held in Abu Dhabi, or are you planning events in other countries as well?
So we plan to have both Abu Dhabi and at least one country outside. So this year, for example, we went to Suzuka in Japan with the cars, and we had a series of demonstrations during one of the most important race of the Super Formula Japanese Championship, where we had AI cars racing once against the other and human cars against autonomous cars. And we will keep on doing these demonstrations and races around the world. There is a lot of interest from very interesting different type of people, right? So the motorsport is a motorsport, right? And, Formula One has an amazing brand and they are pushing their own agenda, which is right. But you see a lot of racing teams who are looking at autonomy as something that could be part of racing tomorrow. And I won't be surprised if 5-10 years from now, you see more and more autonomous and autonomy technology into racing. And why not at some point having a mixed reality where not only a team will race physically on a circuit, but you will have more and more intervention from simulators, giving the opportunity of people to be virtually in a car or to virtually program a car to compete against a human. And this could happen physically on a track or virtually on the net.
As AI continues to evolve, I could see people at home using tools like ChatGPT or other models to write racing software.
Absolutely. Look, today is a job of running an autonomous car or an autonomous drone. It's not a one-man job, right? It's 6, 7, 8 different specialties that work together, right? You have a coding specialty, but you also have race engineer specialties that mix together, right? So it's really interesting to see it evolving. I believe that with generative AI and whatever AI will do in the coming years, you can have people that start making their own pilots and train them and prepare them. And I won't be surprised to see technologies evolving to sport and changing the way sport is perceived today. If you look at sport today, sport has typically a pretty old kind of viewership, right? You and me probably will be the kind of guys interested in that. But if you look at the young generation, they have less attention into sport, into the big events. And bringing them to sport through technology could be a good option.
One thing that comes to mind is fan engagement. In traditional sports, fans connect with human personalities. In an autonomous league, how do you think fan loyalty will develop? Who do they root for? The team, the software, the engineers?
You're absolutely right. I think that before to replace human in sport, it will take a while. And I think it's a good news. I believe that with time, the technology will be more and more present, but the human part of sport will remain a central part of it. There is no doubts about it. I'm sure we're not trying to replace sport, to replace champions, right? We're bringing advancements in technology to bring new things to sport and new things to the way you engage with fans. Now, we can think about a lot of things around simulation. I think all the sim racing games and activities are raising around the world. Every time we have a race, we have at least 20 or 30 racing pods where kids come and try. And you see that it's growing a lot, right? So I won't be surprised that all these things mix together.
What are the goals of the Autonomous Racing League? What kind of impact are you hoping to achieve, technologically, socially, or commercially?
Several benefits are expected. And going back to our roots as ATRC, we are an R&D accelerator, right? So our job is to sometimes also spend time, efforts, and budgets on things that not everyone believe in, because we see a potential breakthrough in the future. And progressively having this test bed allows the teams that are, most of them research teams, but also some of them are industries that participate to the race, to test new concepts at scale. So first of all, we are a place where people test and confront technical ideas. Clearly, this will help then industries to adopt these technologies, or be able to judge if these technologies are potentially something we can bring into industry and replicate at scale. It's also helped building up, I believe, credibility and autonomy. I mean, Randy, today, I don't believe you will be so easily putting someone from your family on an autonomous car to go from a point A to B without thinking about it a couple of times before, right? At least the majority of the people will at least never do that. So showing that autonomous vehicles can go at very high speed, I think creates, without incident, create really the sense of these things can work, these things actually can be useful, and I will be happy to put myself or someone I love into that vehicles. For Abu Dhabi specifically, I think there is also a STEM agenda, attracting young talent into technology, into becoming tomorrow a technician, becoming tomorrow an engineer or researchers. Because one day I went to see one of these races and I saw these autonomous cars racing 250 kilometers per hour on their own. with no human intervention, driven by AI. And I want to be the engineer in the back of the autonomous kit. I want to be the coder in the back of the AI solution that have done that. So I think there are a lot of benefits and potential outcomes that go from credibility, acceptance of the technology, creation of interest for the young generation to technology, but also technical applications that can become businesses in the future.
Over the past 5 years, have you seen a noticeable shift in STEM interest or engagement in Abu Dhabi as a result of these programs?
Look, since we started through ATRC STEM programs and through A2RL STEM activities, we have touched thousands of kids from 12 years old and up. We certified recently close to 100 young adults to be drone pilots through the A2RL STEM program. And we see the interest of both the kids and their parents to push the kids through these STEM studies. And interestingly, majority of the students are females that actually perform very strongly. And that's very nice to see.
I'm sure you get this question periodically, but why host the grand challenges at all? Couldn't similar innovation happen without large-scale public competitions?
The grand challenge had been created centuries ago, right, to solve problems no one had a solution for. I think you can do that without any, show around it, right? But the show, I think, is a catalyst to create the competition between the teams. Today, if we look at the teams we have racing in both in drones and in cars, these teams are excited to be put as a front row from a media perspective. Most of the time, researchers are totally ignored or hidden, right, in the back office. And we believe that we need to show people how important research is for the development of technology. And whatever you see today in the products you use in your car, in your phone, in your computer, these are things that have been developed by these researchers most of the time, not yesterday, but 15, 20 years ago, and today are in fruition to the grand public. So I believe these grand events are very important to create the excitement, but also to give space to research who typically most of the people ignore have been at the base of all these developments.
It seems like the goal is to push autonomy to its limits. But that raises a bigger question. How do you balance advancing autonomous tech while still considering the role of humans in the loop?
There is no plan to replace the human in what we do. The autonomy for us has a lot of application where humans actually are not the best option. Think about doing maintenance into a nuclear plant. Most of these activities require highly trained people who put their life at risk to get in some areas of the nuclear plant to operate maintenance. If tomorrow you can do that through an autonomous drone, an autonomous humanoid, you will probably avoid to expose people to radiation and to problems. If you think about safety, if you think about security, being able to protect kilometers and kilometers of coast from people trying to smuggle any product into a country, and you do that in complicated waters, you maybe want to do that with autonomous vehicles that do not put at risk the life of people. So I think there is not a question of replacement of the humans, but a question of not putting at risk the human lives and, where possible, put autonomous solutions able to do so.
As new technologies and lessons learned emerge from these events, is there a process in place to transfer that knowledge to the commercial sector?
Absolutely. So if we look at ATRC business model, as I was saying at the beginning, Aspire is a program manager and the Grand Challenge owner. TII is the art of the research and development. Together, TII and Aspire go out and find customers, understand their problems, and create solutions. But at the end of the chain, we have an organization called Venture One. And going back to autonomy specifically, in Venture One, we created an organization called Steer AI, whose job is to commercialize autonomous kits. And so, for example, in the UAE, the government have launched a very ambitious plan to move in the next 10 years, 30% of the vehicles from standard vehicles to autonomous vehicles, right? Think about ambulance, think about patrolling, think about all the stuff I was indicating before. And Steer AI is the organization with basically the catalyst of everything that has been done from a challenge and research perspective to create an organization whose job is going to manufacture the autonomous kit, install them into the existing vehicles, and maintain the fleet.
So what's next for the Autonomous Racing League?
After this race, which will be the first drone race, we will immediately jump into the organization of the car race, which is going to happen in November, and a couple of other demonstrations that cars and drones will do in the UAE and globally, and then organize the next year races. It's pretty intense because you need to identify the teams, and then you need to train the teams. Teams don't show up last minute with an autonomous car or drone. They need to really train and prepare themselves. And so there is a huge organization that my colleagues run all year long to onboard the teams, train them. And ideally, I think one of the main targets for us next year and the following year will be to make sure that the autonomous vehicles are able to perform very, very closely to the humans.
How were the teams selected? Was there an application or a qualification system?
On the drone race, we had 140 teams globally who responded to our call saying, I want to participate. This team went through a selection process. First, we asked them to submit a white paper on autonomy and show a couple of videos of what they were able to do with autonomous drones as of today. Then we selected from them the best teams. We start asking them more and more complex questions to the point that we brought to Abu Dhabi something close to 40 teams to test physically in front of us and with the other teams. And we end up with the best 14 teams who participate. So it has been a 9 to 10 months process from the moment we started the selection to the race in 2 weeks' time. And same with the cars. Now, what is interesting is that the first time we contacted potential teams, they were all research teams. So people that typically work into university and R&D centers. But today, in reality, on the cars, we have at least 3-4 teams who are not pure research teams. They come from the industry, they come from the racing industry, and they look at that as a testing bed for the evolution of sport. So that's also very interesting, in my opinion, because it would have been too much research with only teams from universities. Now we have teams that come not from a research background, but from a competition background or an industry background, and they have a very different approach to developing new products.
And for my final question, Stephane, what message would you like to leave regarding the future of autonomous vehicles?
I think for me, the main message is people should not be afraid of autonomy, because autonomy is a process that started years and years ago. Today, 80% of your time on a plane is actually managed in an autonomous way. So autonomy has been here. But now you're going to see it more and more into everyday life. And it's important that the adoption and the work of the regulators and the governments around that, and also the private sector, is to progressively create the consensus and the acceptance that will drive an amazing change in the way we operate our cities and the way we live mobility on a daily basis. And as A2RL, as ATRC, we're excited to contribute to that mission.
That's it for episode 440 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Stéphane Timpano of Aspire. I want to thank Stephane for taking the time to speak with me. If you want to learn more about Aspire or want to connect with Stephane, please check out the webpage at aspireuae.ae. If you like the Drone Radio Show, then please subscribe and share. Write a glowing review, and if you're able, donate to keep the podcast going. Go to droneradioshow.com/donate. And thanks for listening. Your support means a lot to me, and I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Goers.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.